If you're a seasoned PC builder or tinkerer, you can probably rattle off a few different connectors and headers on your motherboard in your freaking sleep, especially if you dream about RGB heatsinks like I do. But what about all those other little tiny components? For instance, the capacitors and resistors that fill up all the extra space. What exactly do they do? Well, a big part of the reason you have so many electronic components on your motherboard's PCB is that your computer parts, like CPU, graphics card, memory, etc., typically can't use electricity directly from your power supply. For example, most of those 650 watts or whatever your power supply promises are delivered on the 12-volt rail. But imagine what would happen if you put 12 volts through a modern CPU, which only needs like a tenth of that to run. You'd fry it faster than an egg on a hot sidewalk. So because everything in your PC needs a very specific amount of power, your board has lots of capacitors on it. Those are the cylindrical looking things that poke out of your motherboard like little tiny water towers in a little miniature city. They even serve a somewhat similar function to the aforementioned water towers. They store energy, then release it in a controlled fashion. You see, the power that comes into them doesn't flow completely smoothly and has small variances in voltage that could make it useless or even damage your components. So these small capacitors clean up the power and deliver the silky smooth constant voltage that your internal electronics need. And if you open up a decent power supply, make sure it's unplugged first. You'll probably find some much larger capacitors that serve a similar function, keeping a constant DC voltage for your computer and filtering out noisy AC interference, also called ripple. But although capacitors help to clean up the power, resistors do much of the heavy lifting when it comes to controlling what voltages your components actually get. As you can probably guess, a resistor resists the flow of current, ensuring that your components won't get so much power that they'll be damaged. Although many hobbyists who have worked with simple circuits might be familiar with resistors that look like this, with colored bands that indicate strength measured in ohms, most resistors on modern motherboards are more understated in appearance, looking like little black and silver rectangles. Okay then, but what about all those blocky things near my CPU? They don't look like capacitors or resistors, and okay, well, you'd be right. These are called chokes, okay, don't get too excited. They're a type of inductor. Similar to how a capacitor will smooth out voltage, an inductor will smooth out current. Important, considering how much power a typical desktop CPU can draw. You can learn more about CPU